Can you hear me now?
Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is my review of the Rebel Arms Lightning Mod 2 5.56 rifle. Now, when Rebel Arms first approached me, I told them I wanted their entry level of the mid-range gun. My reason for that is my last few rifle reviews have been Ferrari's flagships. Companies have sent me their best. There's nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to take a look at what I consider a working man's gun. Someone who doesn't have necessarily, they haven't saved up enough money, or they don't have enough money, or they're not willing to spend as much money on a $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 gun. Because let's be honest, no matter how awesome something is expensive. I wanted something that someone could easily save up enough money for and obtain, and it's going to perform really, really well. Is it going to perform as well as some of those more expensive rifles? Initially going into it, I didn't know. Definitely it's something that's reasonably possible, but usually rifles are more expensive for a reason, because there's an expected higher degree of performance. Now, there are some rifles out there where branding is branding, but I felt that an entry-level or mid-range rifle review would do really well for those people who are maybe buying their first AR, or they're looking for a workhorse that they're not going to be worried about beating up or banging around so much because they don't have as much money invested in it. So how did the Lightning Mod 2 perform? Let's find out. Now, the rifle they sent me, the Mod 2 they sent me, is pretty bare on aftermarket features. It's pretty mil-spec, so to speak. Mil-spec trigger, although it is hand-polished, and I'll talk more about the trigger later. Mission first tactical furniture, absolutely nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't really consider that entry level, but you got to put some kind of furniture on it, and this is definitely an enhancement over what you'd get from your standard mil-spec collapsible buttstock, your standard mil-spec A2 grip. Non-ambidextrous safety, I don't really see a huge need for an ambidextrous safety. Again, totally different conversation, totally different video. And then it's Cerakoted OD green, big fan of OD green, and it's got a 1-in-7 barrel in it. 1-in-7, 14.5 inch pinned. They put the Griffin M4 SD on it, which I'm totally happy with. I'm a huge Griffin armament fan. I love the M4 SD as a comp. I don't see any reason to change out, different things. And I love when a rifle ships with something besides an A2 birdcage. I mean, it does add a little bit of cost to the rifle, but I think the end user is going to appreciate it more. And if they're, especially, something mid-range like this, if you're counting your dollars, saving up your own budget, if you don't like the brake or the comp that comes with it, you can easily take it off, put whatever you want on that, and then there's some resale value in what came with the rifle versus an A2 birdcage, which nobody really wants. I have a box of them. I use them. They do serve a purpose, but no one's going to give me 20 bucks for one. All right, getting right into it, the review process. Just like every other firearm, 2,000 rounds fired, I do pre-lubricate with fire clean, but I don't re-lubricate at any point during the review process. During the 2,000 rounds, not a single malfunction, which is what I expect. Any well-built rifle, you shouldn't experience a malfunction in the first 2,000 rounds. You shouldn't experience a malfunction in the first 4,000 rounds or more, unless it's an ammunition-related malfunction. My personal feeling is, barring any unforeseen, strange, atypical event, there's nothing you can introduce into the rifle ammunition-wise that's going to cause a malfunction, unless it's the ammunition itself, because that is the one, I should say, constantly changing factor in the function of a gun is the ammunition you're introducing into it. Now, for the review process, shot a couple different rounds. I shot some reloaded 55 grain that Rebel sent me. I also shot Wolf 55 grain Classic, and I shot S&B 55 grain, and threw in some 77 grain, some 62 grain, some other grain ammunition like that. Accuracy checks that you'll see later on in the video were done with just 55 grain S&B. No big deal, nothing crazy, nothing super match. I wanted to use standard, common training ammunition because for most people, the majority of the service life is going to be fired with just regular training ammunition, which, let's be honest, is usually the cheapest ammunition we're willing to put into our guns.
I'd say that's hot.
All right, first test, some of you know, as soon as I get the gun zeroed where I want it, 500 round burn down. Fire 500 rounds as fast as I can. I want to get the gun super, super hot, and then I let it cool. Let it cool for either the rest of the day or, at the end of the day, I go home, I come back later. In this case, the gun cooled on the range. I went home after doing the 500 round burn down, came back about a week later, the gun had sat. And then I ran 30 rounds through it, didn't experience a malfunction. My reason for doing this is I want to push the bounds of reality, not too much, a little bit, but I want to run the gun super fast, super hot, super hard. I want to run it really hard, and then see how well it performs after it's had time to cool, that carbon's had time to harden. As you'll see, didn't experience a significant issue, and it's very telling that during the 500 rounds, even though I was firing as fast as I could, I was still keeping an eye on accuracy as the gun get hot, and I wanted to see if the groups really opened up. Some people get a little weird about 14.5 inch barrels. They want 16 or 18 or 20 or what have you. But for intermediate range purposes, the 14.5 is a really good barrel, and I did not see a significant opening of the accuracy even as the barrel got into 300, 400, 500 degrees. Now, another test that goes on throughout the review process is spec and reliability. What is spec and reliability? Well, it's obviously the inherent reliability of the firearm, but it's also the spec, the tolerances. How's the gun going to feed different bands of ammunition? But also, another thing that changed constantly on the gun is the magazines. Is it going to feed reliably different brands of magazines? Not everybody's going to use Magpul, not everybody's going to use USGI, not everybody's going to use Lancer or Troy or what have you. Now, during the review process, I used USGI, I used Magpul, obviously, Lancer mags, Troy, Hex Mag, and HK, and then my Surefire 60 rounder, which I use for any high volume things that I'm going to do with the gun. Didn't have any magazines that failed to drop free. Now, a habit I have when I shoot is when the magazine goes dry, I tend to do a swipe because my hand's coming off the gun and it's coming back here to get ammunition anyway. So just as a fail-safe, you'll see in the video I do tend to swipe the magazines. But some of them drop free. Obviously, some of them are already out of the gun as my hand gets back there to do that. Just for me, that's just a behavior I've developed, because every now and then, and I've used rifles in the past, and I own a few rifles, that not every magazine really wants to drop free, especially if the magazine's been reloaded a few times after it's been on the deck. It's gotten dirt and Georgia clay and other things on it. So it's just a technique I do. But as you'll see in the video, every magazine I used, no issues. I didn't have to physically strip any of the magazines. Spec and reliability is excellent on this gun. Now, recoil on the 5.56 cartridge is not significant. The felt recoil really isn't that bad. But recoil does affect your ability to shoot accurately fast. Self-defense situation, if your rifle's for occupational personal self-defense, that's an issue. It can mean the difference between a tight group and a slightly larger group. It can mean the difference between a hit and a miss at rapid fire. And obviously, we should only shoot as fast as we can accurately get hits, but recoil plays a huge part in that. The Lightning Mod 2 has a mid-length gas system, which I feel is the best gas system for intermediate range rifles. Unlike a carbine length gas system, which is going to overgas the gun and really make the gun beat itself up really hard, mid-length gives you a much softer push. Now, muzzle devices play into that, obviously. A lot of your recoil control or keeping that muzzle down is going to come into play with the actual muzzle device. The Griffin M4SD, excellent. It definitely aided in the rifle's inherent ability to manage the recoil really well. I got a straight to the rear press, as you'll see on the slow-mo, and I didn't feel the rifle's recoil, even under heavy fire, ever significantly disadvantaged me from being able to get really acceptable hits no matter the distance I was shooting at. Now, obviously the trigger is one of the most important parts of the firearm. This rifle comes with a mil-spec polished hand-fit trigger. When I hear mil-spec, I roll my eyes, because mil-spec is usually, the quality control tolerances just aren't really there compared to some of your higher-end triggers. Those triggers cost more for a reason. This trigger, they took a mil-spec and they improved it, and they threw it in the gun. Now, it's not going to necessarily have the same feel as one of those higher-end triggers. Got to be honest with you, didn't notice that much of a difference. They say it breaks between 5 and 7. This one broke at 5.1, 5.2 pretty consistently. It's the pressure wall is there, reset is light. Initial take-up, there isn't a whole lot of creep to it, and it breaks super clean. It's a really clean trigger. For a trigger that's advertised as mil-spec, I really couldn't ask for any more. I know some other triggers out there that are enhanced mil-spec or something like that I don't like nearly as much as I like this trigger. I don't have anything bad to say about the trigger whatsoever. Do I prefer other triggers? Absolutely. If I had to choose, this wouldn't be the trigger I'd go with. I'm going to be honest with you. But in this rifle, this trigger performs excellent. Now, for those of you that can't use an aftermarket trigger, for if you're using an individual officer's patrol rifle or something like that, or maybe you have concerns about using an aftermarket comp trigger for self-defense purposes, excellent choice. You're not going to notice a significant degradation in performance of this trigger versus a 3.5 pound single stage high-end performance trigger. Accuracy. Zeroed quick. Took me 20 rounds to zero, which it is what it is. I don't think you can really measure a rifle's necessarily accuracy and how long it takes you to zero it. But some people like to hear how long it took you to zero a rifle. Some guns I've zeroed in as little as 6 rounds, and then 5 to confirm, or whatever your zeroing process is. No consistent accuracy issues on the Rebel. I'm able to reach out and hit whatever I want to shoot at. Whatever's inside the 5.56 envelope, this rifle's going to reach out and touch. My final accuracy test, took the aim point off of it, and I threw on the Trijicon AccuPower 1:4. Now, 1:4 is not super great magnification for long range precision, but for intermediate ranges it's great. So I threw this gun there. The last 5 rounds you're going to see, Fire 2,000 rounds through the gun for the review process. These last 5 rounds are my accuracy check after having 2,000 rounds through a gun unclean. So you can kind of judge the inherent accuracy of the gun for yourself. Alright, so what don't I like about the Rebel Arms Lightning Mod 2? I don't like the price. I feel like this gun should cost more. And I say that because I have not been able to detect any significant differences or any real differences at all between this $1,500 rifle and my Noveski. Well, God, I know. And here's the thing. Rifles cost what they cost for whatever reason. Rebel builds guns. They may not have the same overhead, the same advertising, the same staffing levels. They hand source their parts, they got their nose to the grindstone, they're building good rifles, and they're putting them out there at reasonable prices. For some people, $1,500 is still too expensive. I can't say anything to those people that's going to make them buy this gun. I'm not even trying to sell you this gun. I'm telling you this gun exists, it's $1,500, and it is awesome. I usually don't get that excited about rifle reviews because I see the same consistent degrees of performance, and in the back of my head I always think like, well, this is a $2,000 rifle, I expect this. This is a $2,300 rifle, I expect this. This is a $1,500 gun, I expected good performance because the guys at Rebels build a good gun. I've talked to them enough to know that they have their mind in the right place when it comes to craftsmanship and putting out a good product, but I did not expect this rifle to appeal to me as much as it did. I'm not necessarily a rifle snob, but I like what I like, and this gun performs excellent. The price point makes me love it even more. Now, I still maintain a reserve status in law enforcement. Got to bring my own patrol rifle. Well, my patrol rifle before was my Noveski. It's now getting replaced with this. So that's how behind this gun I am. Other guns, you know, they are what they are. This rifle meets the specifications for my reserve department, so it's going to get, paperwork's getting changed over, and this one's going to go on the road with me. If you're in the market for a mid-level gun and you want to support, you know, a small business, you can't go wrong with Rebel Arms. I wouldn't say I was ever hesitant during the review process, but I guess I got used to Ferraris a little bit during these reviews, and I was pleasantly very, very surprised with how well this gun consistently performed. So again, if you're out there and you're looking, this is an excellent choice. I'm Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics, training accordingly.
Little smoky. Oh, now he falls.